It's good to see you on the other side. I'm assuming if you're here for one thing and that's one thing only. You're here in the back alleys. You're here in the streets. What are you here for? Spoilers. That's right.
What are you talking about? This all got very poetic all of a sudden. The
Did
last
it?
one was kind of, oh, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're all weary and just having our coffee, and we
It's
come
five
in.
past nine now. Finished first cup of coffee.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We're on it. The cafeteria is empty and full of grainy bits. Not that I'm implying
Yeah.
that you're not being a good host, but you're on it. You come back. We're in back alleys. We're here for one thing. You sound like a crack dealer, to be honest.
Well, that's the kind of thing I was going for. I wanted to kind of maybe a bit of crack. No, it's spoilers. I hope you've seen Dark Knight because we're not going to talk about that movie.
I feel like we should talk about Dark Knight now, but let's not.
I hope you've seen Dark Knight because it's a really good film, man. I don't want to spoil it for you. Away on you go.
So this is
Have
the
some
episode
crack.
about spoilers, but we're not going to talk about spoilers
It's
on
about
Dark Knight.
crack in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Fooled you, DeVecchio. No, it's not about.
Good, because even though I've got my crack speech prepared, Dark Knight, I know nothing.
Yeah.
So spoiler episode. So we're coming in from the end of the last one. What you might have noticed is towards the end of part one, I floated the suggestion of making it one long episode, to which Dom replied with the kind of the sucking the teeth thing, and he said we'd have a conversation about it, which we did. We had a physical conversation. I'm not going to say he hit me because you never know who's
Because I
listening.
didn't actually touch you, but I was holding the thing that was hitting you quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, and mental abuse isn't real abuse; it's character building.
It is,
isn't it?
That's what I was told growing up.
So yeah, long story short, we've split it into the two parts. I know my role. I'm here because Don wants me to be here. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for him, I'd be sat outside. Just
I know what you're thinking. My hand is
cafeteria
up his
drop.
ass, and I'm literally working him like a puppet. But no, of his own free will. Man, I think we need to get into this.
Your
'cause
introduction was better than mine in hindsight.
because I think we could be here a while otherwise.
like we're not going to be already.
Um,
So let's do it. So we want to talk a bit. We want to talk in depth. We want to talk about Man of Steel.
Okay.
And we want to talk about World War Z. These
Which-
are the two. What have you lost?
sorry, no, I'm not saying anything. Keep going. It's fine.
All right. Okay.
You got this. You got it, bro.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll take the reins on this one. Thank you, sir. So these are the two big films. Well, two of the big films that came out recently. There's a lot of good stuff coming to the cinemas. These are the ones we were most excited about seeing. So for Dom, it was Man of Steel. For me, it was World War Z.
We need to decide about which one to talk about first.
He's waving a coin at me.
Um,
No, it's either Payday.
pick pick heads or tails.
I'm really sorry. If anyone heard that vibrate, it's because at @perpetual_dawn is now following me on Twitter. Now, he or she is probably quite thankful of the shout out. I don't know who she is. Might turn out to be a nasty individual. So
Anyway,
I'll turn that off. I'm so sorry.
that's alright.
I'm sorry. Please don't hit me again.
Pick heads or tails for label the coin heads or tails. For...
If you've ever played Bioshock Infinite, you know it's always heads. So heads is World War Z.
Okay, right. Did you?
That was a really.
Did you hear that, listeners?
That was a beautiful. Oh,
Did I tell you I'm really good at flicking coins?
you are really good at flicking coins.
This is how I make a lot of my decisions.
You are amazing. Oh, well, I got something in my mouth. Oh, it appears to be Don Dick. Sorry, carry
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Heads. Didn't I
World
tell
War
you?
Z, it's always
heads.
Okay, I'm glad we started with World War Z because I think actually most people are going to know about Man of Steel.
Don't be so sure.
Well, anyway, there's a lot I want to get off my chest about World War Z.
As the advocate for World War Z, can I?
Kick us off.
Brilliant.
I tell you what. I think we should go down. I think we should go through the movie practically scene by scene.
God. All right, let's stretch the memory.
So-
Okay, I'm going to talk you through it as I took it. So,
Yeah.
as I said in the last one, it starts off. First thing first, I'm a sucker for a good title sequence.
It was
The title sequence to
yeah.
World War Z was brilliant. It was like oh, what was I saying to Jess? It was like is it Dawn of the Dead? The remake with the shopping mall. It's got the Johnny Cash soundtrack.
The Zack Snyder film.
I don't think it's Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it's one of the.
Is
Zack
it?
Snyder directed the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Yep.
Gee, wow.
It's fine. Go on.
You've just dropped a wisdom
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Just look at that. So
That's
the
still
title.
my dick.
So the title sequence for Dawn of the Dead, the new one, is fantastic. The Johnny Cash soundtrack,
Yeah.
kind of visions of destruction, and the title sequence to World War Z. It kind of took me by surprise.
It was very. I mean, I had very mixed feelings going in because I'd heard about the tricky production history, and it was the last thing I'd seen by the filmmaker was Quantum of Solace. And
Yeah. All right.
Quantum of Solace. Now, I will sit there and defend Quantum of Solace more than most people, but there is no denying the issues that film had.
I still don't know what it's about.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing that really made me nervous was that I wasn't worried about going to see another zombie movie, but the trailers had these amazing sequences that looked phenomenal, and I really just didn't want it to be. I really didn't want to go and pay a ticket, watch it for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it was, and just see those sequences again with a couple of extra shots, and that'd be the only good thing about the movie.
No, that's true.
I wanted something, and ironic with a zombie movie, I wanted something with teeth, with a bit of,
Who does your comedy writing?
I don't where's that book about podcasting? To really hit me off. And so when you then tell me the guy making that film was the guy who made Quantum of Solace, that you still don't know the plot about, it's like sitting here with a child. I was worried.
Well, you agree that the titles, you watch the titles, it starts, and it is one of my favourite things about a film. I mean, I think the start to Seven, the start to Dawn of the Dead, probably start with this one, they're all done by the same guy. And I wish I could remember his name. As soon as I hastily Google it, I'll throw it up down below. So check out, it's the one guy who did all of them, it's fantastic. But at the same time, I like that, but it also introduced what I didn't like as well. Now, the soundtrack of a movie is
you said that.
Is huge, obviously. There was this thing you watch if you did psychology in the olden days when I did it, where you see a video of a spider walking along the ground, and they play it with like real kind of suspenseful music, and you feel scared and suspenseful, and then they play it with circus music, and you're like, oh, look at that piss ass spider, it's so hilarious. So the soundtrack is very important in this one, and what they did, they took a great song, it's the Muse song, and it is Isolated System. At the end of their new album.
You'll know it's the song from the film. I didn't recognise it. I knew I'd heard it, but I didn't recognise it.
But I think that's my problem. Yeah. Because I'd heard the album, I love that song. I'd listened to it quite a few times. And I heard it. You hear a song, and it clicks. Think, right, I know that song. At the start, they're playing it over the credits. It's fantastic. It fits perfectly. And if you actually listen to the song from the album, there's a bit more to it than what was on the film. And we'll have a listen to it after this podcast.
We'll throw it up at the end.
Throw it up at the end
to fade out.
Yeah, we'll what? Illegally? Should we just
that don't matter.
We're just gonna copyright
don't
for
worry,
wimps.
Don't worry, my son. I shall talk you through this.
But I think
and
what
the lawyer
they did
will talk me through it as well. Anyway,
but what they did, they used it and it sounded great, but then you kind of notice it when it pops up again and again. And I have very few criticisms of the film, but the soundtrack. I mean, what did you think of the scoring of the film?
Not a lot of score, and I really like that. The best bit of sound design, the moment I knew...
I could tell you're getting passionate. You're bouncing in your seat and you're just doing the Italian hand thrusts at me.
The moment I knew I was on board, that when you see that guy turn, when they're running away, the smashes through the thing, and she's holding... It's balls. So, if you've seen the trailer... and you've hopefully seen the film if you're listening to our smaller talk, right at the beginning when they're in the car, they're stuck in traffic... do you know what I mean? The moment I was like, I was excited was when Brad Pitt started making sensible decisions. I know, sensible decisions in a zombie movie, but it happened, and you saw this thing from like small outbreak. You saw the town go to shit.
Yeah.
No one had a car crash, and there was a couple of hours missing, or no one woke up from a coma 2 weeks into the zombie thing.
Yeah.
You saw this thing just spread, and I think that's partly why it stayed with you, because you're like, how would I deal? That's how it would happen.
Yeah.
I've got no defense for that. The best zombie plan in the world. But my favorite bit where the sort of not the score, but where
the use of sound.
Yeah. All the other, up until then, it's been really kind of real sound, and to my memory, and this is going to sound like a bit of a cop-out, but to my memory, there wasn't any music over that scene, which means if there was, it was perfect, because I completely didn't know it was there. But it definitely goes silent. You stop hearing the screams of people around you, and Brad Pitt is thinking, and you see he's thinking, and he's watching the guy turn, and you hear the toy that his daughter is carrying counting, and you know that in his head he's counting how long it takes from bite to infection. And the sound goes, and it's just him, and he sort of zeroes in on this one guy, and he zeroes in on watching him go from normal guy trying to get away to zombie in 10 seconds, and that moment of that, just how it's directed and how the sort of the scene slows down almost in a Zack Snyder kind of way. Do you know what I mean? The sort of slow-mo mixed with fast movement.
I think that is brilliant. I don't know
yeah.
if Brad Pitt had anything to do with that. I don't know if he's counting the seconds. I don't know if he's consciously doing it.
Yeah.
That's not the way I saw it. I just saw it as it was kind of, it is the best way to see the zombie turn.
Yeah. It was an excellent scene.
It was
a
fantastic,
couple of seconds.
and that's by using that as well, because you've heard it a couple of times before in the car, like that little girl's toy, and you squeeze it. And it's like it was 12 seconds. Like, here comes the train to the number 12 station, and it's counting, and it's kind of like, I think it's something that filmmakers use a lot.
No, it goes 10. No, does it go the other way?
It goes the other way.
Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Did you even watch this film?
I was too busy in my own pants.
Do you not think that's kind of a filmmaker's technique, where you take something horrifying and something childish, and it's kind of the contrast of the two, like the trailer we saw for The Conjuring.
I really didn't like that trailer, but anyway.
I think Jess just left a brown streak on her watching that.
She nearly had the baby.
She nearly had the baby. I had the hot fluffy towels ready, but the kind of the bit at the end where it's got the Jack in the Box, and it does the kids' music, and then a jump scare. It's a common trick in horror films, I think. You take something like a child or something childish, something horrifying, and it is that kind of jarring contrast between the two that sticks with you. But in this case, it wasn't scary, but it was
chilling. It was really, I mean, there was hardly any jump scares in this movie, and if there were, it completely fit. It didn't feel like somebody put a jump scare in. Because they wanted you to be frightened at that point. But the thing I really liked about that, to me, is it didn't feel like somebody putting something childish to make the childish thing sound creepy or as an effect. It sort of reminded me of when you are in a situation like that, and the things you hear around you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it happens a lot in Martin Scorsese films. The songs he uses in front of the things you happen that are often incredibly violent things, they fit so well because it sounds like real life does, in that there's a radio playing and stuff's going on in front of you. And so to that moment, to me, was sort of like he's holding his child who's holding the bear. That's the thing he can hear while he's watching. Do you know what I mean? So rather than it feeling like a gimmick, like you say, rather than it was like, oh look, here's a Jack in a Box. Ding, 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 ding.
Your eyes did the creepiest stare when you were doing that.
Wait for a jump scare. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It just completely fit the moment.
It was completely. It really was.
It was brilliant. And then from that moment on, I was like, I'm on board. And it really, the fast zombies worked. The scale of the film, the big sweeping shots. Sorry,
I don't want you to kind of. I just want to take each part and just savor it.
It's
such a delicious film, and just what you were saying then, it's kind of the next part that it sold the film to me in the trailers, and it was, like how 28 Days Later was the first time you saw running zombies, and that was revolutionary. This film, and I'll explain why in a minute. This film is the first time that I saw zombies and thought they could be truly, truly dangerous. Now, I know, you watch a zombie film. I tried to watch the original Dawn of the Dead. And I just couldn't.
It's a bit, very dated.
I think a lot of people have been raised on zombie fiction a certain way now, and there's a lot of fashionable. You know what I mean when they say there's fashionable zombie traits, like slow, shambling, Resident Evil, Dawn of the Dead doesn't cut it anymore. You need the 28 Days Later run-in. But just after the bit where he turns, and you just see the zombies swarming, and you think about other zombie films you've seen, and it is a lot like kind of like a cheap beat 'em up, where they go one at a time usually, or if the hero's about to die, then they all pile in. This is the first time I've seen a zombie film where the zombies act as they swarm. They use their body as a weapon. I remember the bit in the trailer I saw is when they're trying to attack the helicopter, and they are running at it with no thought of their own personal safety and just throwing themselves off the top of the building. And you see that, and you think,
that's what I was going to say. When in the big epic, it was like a wave.
It really is.
They stopped being kind of, and the thing that frightened me, that genuinely frightened me at the beginning, was when the guy, he's sort of looking around, he looks, he's a bit scared, he's not sure what's going on, as you would be. And he also has this kind of attitude of, why is everyone running? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm sure they're running for a reason, but whatever it is, it can't be that bad. I want to see what it is.
He
sees what it is, realizes he's made a mistake, and jumps in his car.
Mm.
And I thought that was going to be the end of this guy's sequence. Do you know what I mean? It was a clever interlude to show you the zombies swarming like that.
Yeah.
But the moment he gets in his car, that sequence doesn't stop. He's the guy that turns later on, as you know. But when that woman comes up to the car and she starts smashing her way
With
into
her
the
head.
car with her head to bite people inside,
Yeah.
was just, and a similar thing happened, when Brad Pitt's in the truck and they start jumping on the truck and he's having to smash up the truck.
Yeah.
I was so on board by that point. I was kind of like, you need to do that, but don't damage the truck, Brad.
Yeah.
It's how you get away.
But it's
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It was seeing these zombies, and it was kind of like, I think that's the only way I could describe it. They felt dangerous.
Yeah,
They really felt like just one of them. It just wasn't going to stop.
Yeah, and
I don't want to
Yeah.
jump ahead to the later scene when they're in Jerusalem. We'll talk about that.
We'll jump again,
But that was just my mind. Just what did I? At the end of the film, I said it just gave me the biggest zombie erection I've ever had.
Yeah. It was such a good, and I think it was the other thing of just seeing this place go to shit very
Yeah.
quickly. Do
It
you know what I mean?
really was.
I was hoping that you would see in this film, you would see that period of zombies outbreak to thing, and you do. But the cheat of it is it's so quick
Yeah.
that
I think just in that, I've thought about this afterwards.
Yeah.
It's my second favourite zombie reveal.
Which is
It's kind of, well, in number 3, because I did my top
Okay,
3.
yeah,
Number
yeah,
3 was Dawn of the Dead, the
okay,
remake.
yeah.
Just because
When the girl turns out.
it's where the girl turns up, but it's
Yeah.
not just that. It's where she's driving away and the camera kind of pans up and you see it, and then you see like an ambulance smash into the side of a car and just fires. And it's that kind of like, it's taken from your own little world, and then you zoom out and you just see that everything's gone to hell. This is number 2 because it is precise, which is a word I'm going to use a lot in this podcast, but it was so, everything's fine, there's a zombie, it spreads within 12 seconds thanks to the little 1, 2, 3. Number 1 is always going to be Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, basically.
Because it's just zombie comedy done, and we could literally spend days chatting about that. And preview spoiler, we're kind of booked in to see the Cornetto trilogy.
Oh yeah, which
and there's going to be plenty to talk about after that.
We'll probably throw up a video for that. I think we'll video the day.
I'll do my hair.
But
but yeah, when the zombies
turn up, yeah.
when there's just that whole thing there, it's memorable.
With
and I think that's
him
important.
wondering, with the worst hangover in the world, not noticing to start with, is the brilliant bit where he walks past the homeless guy and just completely doesn't notice that he's a zombie, because they're slow zombies as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
The other two you talked about as being a fast ones, I think it's quite significant that they're slow zombies. Do you know what I mean? When he's walking around the shop and you're like, because and he doesn't.
I think I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm actually tempted to do a video commentary, but it would just be one big nerdgasm.
Yeah, it would.
And me pointing out every single in-joke and things like that. So I think, should we shelve that for a moment? Yeah.
The next thing I really liked is when they're in the car, they're going along, they're in the truck, sorry.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with the best they can their kids who've just seen everything they've seen.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. In many ways, it's more kind of character revealing. Then it's partly why that opening sequence isn't so long, because we get to know them a bit more then, and we care for them a bit more then.
Yeah.
And this, I think those two scenes were I wanted more of those scenes in that world, if you like, where they were just trying to get by, day to day.
Yeah.
Because one of the kids finds a gun in the truck, and Brad Pitt's reaction to that is completely. It's just he thanks her for giving him the gun.
You can tell he's like,
look, no, you need to put that down. That's dangerous. That's mine. Thank you, honey. And then he puts the gun down. You
can tell he's got that kind of army background, but not in that kind of cliche way, like Jack Spader, CIA Special Forces. It's really subtle.
Very human. And
he's trained. He knows what to do.
Perfect casting, because he's the perfect age to be borderline retirement.
Yeah.
And still every bit kind of running around, jumping, and
completely buff.
Yeah. But not, and I think it's better that he's a bit uglier in this. Like,
whoa!
I am not.
Whoa!
I think Brad Pitt is really underrated as an actor, but I think the fact that he's not pretty boy in this because he's an older gentleman is brilliant. Maybe
an older gentleman. Oh my! How old are you?
I'm 20.
Exactly.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
So what? 7 years difference. How old's Brad Pitt? Pushing like 50s. He's in his 50s.
He looks better at 50 than either of us look right now.
I don't. Fine, completely happy to take that on board. But if it was somebody who looked like Brad Pitt when he was my age, that not would have ruined it for me.
No, I see
but
what
it
you
was
mean. It's
perfect
kind of
casting.
he did look. That's probably casting, makeup, the whole wardrobe thing. But you're right. He looked
Weathered.
perfect.
Yeah,
He did.
yeah.
He looked weathered. He looked like
Even at the beginning, before anything happened, he looked weathered, like he'd had a life.
he'd seen shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was then when he starts dealing with shit in this calm manner, you buy it. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not like, oh, look how calm he is. No one would do that because,
It's
and it's a
like-
credit to his acting. Do you know what I mean? He plays
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
like a man at that point, which is perfect because I can imagine, Leonardo DiCaprio was also in the running to bid for the film, and I can see Leonardo DiCaprio shouting a lot because that's what he does quite well. And again, I think he's a great actor, but do you know what I mean? It was never too heroic, and it was never too everyman. It was enough that I was trying to sum this up because I really wanted to do a review about this film, but I was like, I'm just gonna have to talk about it with you because I can't concisely put it down what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it, which we'll get onto.
Yep.
But it was just enough everyman that I could relate to him, and it was just enough hero and honourable guy that I also admired him and wanted to think I would act like him in that situation.
What did you think about the scene in the supermarket?
I really liked it. I thought it was really cool.
I
because, I mean, background to the scene in the supermarket. The other thing I liked was when they ran in, and it's little things because, do you know what I mean? Now that I'm starting to try and make my own projects, something, the kind of something that maybe doesn't necessarily affect me, but I think it's really good to get behind is the unspoken gender thing that you get in Hollywood, which is, and again, it's very difficult. Us middle class white males.
You're gonna have to explain this a lot.
Well, there's a definite kind of gender divide in Hollywood as to kind of, what male characters do and what female characters do, and
All right, so stereotypes.
just female representation in films, really.
Okay.
It's something that I'm not going to claim to be an expert on. I'm not going to claim to be massively affected by as a white male. But it's something that was brought to my attention recently, and once it was brought to my attention, I've not been able to forget about it while I've been watching films.
All right,
Which is quite cool.
go on.
And in this, it's something very, very small. It's actually something about Man of Steel that we could talk about either.
Come on, I'm literally on the edge of my seat now. Tell me what you're going to say.
Objectification of women. If you say objectification, people often think sexually.
Right.
When actually what it just means is object and subject. Objects have things done to them and have people make decision made for them.
Right.
Whereas subjects make the decisions and do the actions.
Okay.
And often, even though a woman may not be objectified sexually, she'll often, in a movie, have all of her decisions made for her by male characters.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Or be told what to do by the male characters.
Okay. It's starting to make sense.
And
yeah.
so the bit, I mean, because I wasn't really paying attention to this earlier on in the film, like I said, because all the balls to the wall stuff was happening. And I was just terrified. My rational mind left me, and I was terrified while watching the film. But then once we got to the supermarket, and I started getting on board with it again as a film, like I said, thinking about Brad Pitt and all of that. When they go into the supermarket, she lays the plan down. She says, you need to go and get medicine. You take that child. I'm going to go and get supplies. And admittedly, we follow Brad Pitt in this sequence. We don't follow her, although it does cut back between fairly equally. But he is the subject of the film, which is not something I'm complaining about, but it's important to say given the argument.
Yeah.
And it was just that little thing. I don't want to go on about it, but
No, actually, you know what? I was worried for a second where it was going, but now you've kind of laid it down like that, and I'm thinking back. Yeah. It is a small thing, but it is quite significant because I'm thinking about other films where there's been situations like that, and it is so small we blink and you miss it.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you think about it, she is kind of, considering he's the one who's had the training
and everything else.
Retired,
he's got the backstory that we know about.
She's coping really well, and I think that's kind of, it's another part of this film that's different enough from what you expect to make it stand out.
Not just also, sorry, yeah.
I was just saying, like, not just like the way the zombies act, but little bits like that. And now you've kind of shone a light on it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. And in the truck as well, when she starts making decisions because she's looking after the kid.
Yeah.
And then she says, "Listen, you do it. I'm going to drive."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I need you to do this for me. And he has to stop driving. He has to get up and he has to do it. And she starts driving, and that's when we get the scene with the gun and all of that. And that's the thing. They're a kind of unit. Those two as a husband and wife were brilliant, and credit to that actress playing it in such a way.
Yeah.
but it was little things like that that really made it for me. And I'm not not going to make out that this is a great feminist film, but it was stuff like that that I really appreciate at
No,
the
I
moment
think that's a good spot.
because it's at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
I like those moments, and also when she then does get attacked, which is implied is sexual, but never is explicit.
I thought it was a bit unnecessary.
I mean, it jarred for me because I just liked the thing that had happened before. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, to be fair, it was never implied.
So this is when she gets attacked in the supermarket by those two guys, right?
It's implied that it's for sexual reasons, but it's not gratuitous actually.
Mm.
And I think that's similar for the way the zombies are done, because it's not a gory film.
No, it's
There's
not.
not a lot of gore at all, which I credit it for, because I think that would have been unnecessary.
Yeah.
But it told me everything I needed. I knew they were dangerous. I knew I didn't want to be anywhere near them, and they were disgusting, and it was horrible, and it evoked that reaction gore does. But without being explicit. And I think that scene's another good example because it's an implied sexual threateningness.
Yeah.
But it isn't. And also he doesn't then run in and save her. Do you know what I mean? I was expecting him to come up, pull him off, punch one guy, headbutt the other.
What I did like at the end of that as well, and kind of going on from that, when we can give spoilers because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But when Brad Pitt shoots one of them, and that policeman runs in,
yeah,
their reaction, like kind of Brad Pitt's reaction, like put your hands up, hold the gun up.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those subtle things that just shows he's had training.
Yeah.
And I think I like the way that they kind of showed his background in a very subtle manner, that he'd done all this before, but it never kind of explicitly. You didn't have that kind of
he didn't put the gun
Arnold
down.
Schwarzenegger commando, like a helicopter comes down to their ranch on the hills, like, we need you back, Jack. It's just really nice and underplayed.
But a key thing as well, he didn't put the gun down. He holds the gun up. Do you know what I mean? In that kind of, I don't need to put it down, but I've got it in a non-threatening manner here. But the really interesting thing about the scene before as well, he does exactly the same to the people attacking his wife. He runs over and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he puts his hands up to show he's not being threatening, still holding it. Do you know what I mean? And that was another thing I really liked, is that he didn't come in gun-ho, "I'll save you, honey. Let's get rid of these rapists." It sounds silly, but if you watch it, it happens all the time. And he just comes over and is like, "Hey, what's good?" Holds the gun up. And I again can't remember exactly how. I mean, we're talking seconds now, so talking about how it played out is tricky. But it was another thing I liked. He'd had training. He knew how to deal with the situation like that. And so did his wife, to be honest. She definitely put up her own. And when one of them goes for him, he does shoot him.
Yeah.
And when the policeman turns up as well, the policeman
he just starts grabbing the baby milk and things like that.
Food. Yeah, and that was brilliant as well. It just runs straight past him, doesn't grab the baby food. But yeah.
I think it was one of those tropes of the zombie films to go to the supermarket and get loot in, and it was kind of the whole her getting attacked. I expected when there was that kind of lingering camera shot on the guy in
I really didn't like it
in the baseball cap. It's kind of, I'll take it. It's a zombie film. I'll expect that to happen.
But this is the thing. There was enough jeopardy and peril that you didn't need that scene, and in many ways it would have been more interesting given the thing they'd set up for. I thought it was going to be the other way. I thought it was going to be a switch and bait, because there's the bit when the guy comes out with the gun at the thing, and I thought, great, she's going to come and save.
Counter,
She's going to come and save him.
Do
you know what I mean? You thought she was going to get attacked. It's going to be the other way around.
I don't know. I think it wasn't. I don't think it was a bad thing, because I mean, look at what we've been talking about. Because of that scene, there was a lot of subtle little things that you knew about the characters because of how they reacted to that. So, in its own way, it served the purpose, but the purpose wasn't, oh, people are shit, as soon as things happen, everyone gets all rapey and redneck.
Yeah.
But it just kind of, it's a chance to find out a bit more about the characters and how they dealt with it, which was so early on in the film. Again, it was a very clever way to find out that bit more about them without explicitly saying, again, I'm special forces, I know how to handle a gun, I know how to handle myself with authority.
But I think it is important also to say that it did jar for both of us.
I'm not going to say jar, but I saw past it. I saw it for what it was.
And actually, that was, good to say. Yeah. And obviously the next thing is when they're in the apartment. Which I think, to be honest, was fine. It was quite short stuff. But the getting to the helicopter the second day was was really cool. But something in that scene happened that frustrated me a little bit. So there was the jump, all the stuff, the tying the kids together and tying the kids to the mum. Brilliant. I was like, she did that as well, so that was cool. I was, all on board for that.
Yep.
Taping the book to his arm.
That was genius.
I was like, why have I never thought of that?
Exactly. It was brilliant. I was like, that was just, when he had like a thick magazine, taping it round his forearm so he wouldn't get bit. And I remember seeing it and think, that's a fucking good idea.
Like,
I'm going to incorporate that into my zombie plan because that is genius.
And I was just like, duct tape, I've got that. A book, I've got that. Got the complete works of Shakespeare up there. You'd have to gnaw for quite some time to get through that.
I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit in the film, and this kind of ties into that. It's one of the themes. Going a bit later on in the film when they're talking about the outbreak. In this film universe, they know about zombies.
Yeah.
They know what zombies are. It's not like you see a zombie film like what are the dead
raising
from the ground. They know zombies. They use the word zombies. So at that point when he's taping it up, it's the first indication that they know what this is. They know how it works, and
I think that's a heavier theme in the book, isn't it? Who covered it up, and so
the book is nothing like the film. I mean, I tried to read the book, and the book is really good, but
it's a theme of the book. That's what I'm saying. In the Fight Club, which is another Brad Pitt film that's an adaptation of a book, is very different. The film and the book have very different stories, but very similar themes. So I wanted to get your spin on this as to whether the themes were the same, but the story was different.
I think the actual film would stand on its own 2 feet if it wasn't related to a book. Now, for anyone who hasn't read the book, let's throw some spoilers about that as well. But it is not a typical.
I also haven't read the book, so
then you'll love this.
Yeah,
it is not a linear story. It is about 4 or 5 pages, and the way the book is kind of presented is an oral history of the zombie wars.
Yeah.
So you get little mini interviews with this author. This kind of third-party author having conversations with people who were involved with the zombie wars. So like to start off, so to start off, he's having conversations with some of the people. I think it's Korea, but he's chatting to locals there to get a bit of knowledge. And it's not key characters as well. Like there's one bit I remember when he's chatting to somebody in Korea who was involved in smuggling people in and out of countries.
Okay.
And you get little bits about it's dealt with like a history book almost, and this guy who's talking to, again, it's just a little interview format, and he's saying like the rich people, the people who can afford it, we smuggled those in like coach class. If you didn't have the money, then you just have to kind of stay in the airplane hold and hope for the best. And people were earning a lot of money by doing this, people smuggling. They'd pay to get families in and out, and it really fleshed out the story. I think what the film does is it takes that really well fleshed out, really detailed universe created by the book, and then the film comes from that. If you I mean, I haven't finished the book all the way, but I think if you watch the film and then read the book expecting to have the film rehashed for you in print, you're not going to get that. But you're going to get, I think the best part is you're going to get a lot from the book that isn't in the film. That kind of fleshes the world out.
But that's what I think. If you're going to do a really good book adaptation of a film, you need to kind of go separate ways from the book, almost like highlight the same themes, be in the same world as the book, like you say, but kind of it's enough so that both things can coexist at the same time, rather than I've read the book, why bother seeing the film, or I've seen the film, the book just hashes it out in print. Being different enough but can both go from the same point. That's quite cool.
Exactly. But I just kind of, with the whole apartment scene with the Portuguese family, I believe, Spanish or Portuguese,
yeah.
I'm really sorry to our listeners that I can't tell the difference between the two, but it was that kind of Latino.
Yeah.
But it was all right. I kind of, in my mind, I skip over that bit.
Yeah.
I like it. I think by that point I was invested in the family and the characters. I didn't really want to care about anyone else.
About the Latino family.
And that sounds like a really harsh thing to say, but when you've kind of, from the start of the film, you've had these 4 people. Well, the 2 adults. Was it 2 kids?
Yeah, 2 adults. Yeah.
So you're getting to know this family, and I just wanted to move on. I wanted more zombies by this point. But I think, again, it was nothing new or groundbreaking. They hole up with a family, get some food, and then, A little later, they leave.
Mm.
The family were there. It's like, oh no, we'll stay. We'll be fine. Boom, zombies. One bit I did like, and again, it's the little things that stick with you.
Mm.
They go into the house, to the apartment with the Portuguese family. They get settled down. First thing Brad Pitt does, goes over to the radio, starts scanning for channels.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that and thinking, it was one of those things. And I don't know if it's his training, but it's something you'd probably do. He didn't waste time with introductions. He didn't have time for that. He didn't have time getting to know names. It's priorities. My family's in danger. The zombies. I need to hear what's being broadcast. Again, it's such a small thing, but when you think back about it, it's like it is the first thing he did.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I think it shows a real, because in many ways, it was the thing Quantum of Solace was missing. Do you know what I mean?
Zombies.
Well, yes. I mean, that would have livened it up, certainly.
Oh, God, yes.
God, Bond in a zombie apocalypse. Can you imagine that?
Who's your money on? I think zombies.
The zombies from World War Z. I think the money always goes to them.
I think the zombies from Dawn of the Dead would turn James Bond into shit.
But anyway, we digress.
Of course.
And yeah, it was really cool. Like the thing that annoyed me is when they're escaping onto the helicopter and the Portuguese family stays and all that. You know what I mean? The normal kind of getting through the zombie world stuff was going on. He gets the blood in his mouth.
Yes.
Another brilliant bit, and he runs out of the stairs because he thinks he's going to turn. You hear him counting in his head, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and he's just stood on the edge of the building, ready to jump if he turns. And his family are like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, "No, get back." Really cool. I mean, you knew he wasn't going to go because he's Brad Pitt, and we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
But again, a really cool scene, and showing what he was prepared to do if necessary, which kind of comes back to what happens later on.
To me, that bit didn't make sense. It felt like something that was a good idea that never panned out.
The reason I think it was a good idea it never panned out is because once he does it, he goes, "I'm not turned, I'm fine." You're like, he's immune.
Yes, and then when you watch it later on, you think you know why he's immune.
Yes, and you think you know why he's immune, and you also think he's going to do something about that. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm immune." Do you know what I mean? Take my blood. Find a cure. Me and my family.
It sounds very typical, yeah.
And it's sort of forgotten, I think. And again, we'll talk about this later on. I think, in many ways, it was possibly going to come back.
Yes, and we will talk about it later.
Yeah.
Your thought is my thought, mind you. Sometimes you just need a kind of what's a politically a duller tool.
Yeah.
As in, I spoke to my wife about this.
Okay, and
I'm really sorry to her that I've just described her as a duller tool, but by that I mean someone who doesn't think so much on it. I've said to her,
no. I think the fairer thing to say about your wife, because we have talked about gender politics, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, is we are so nerdy, it's unreal.
That's true.
And when we talk to your wife about films, she just completely, she's like, "Why are you, it's all
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're like, "That bit totally didn't make sense to me, that is not realistic," and she's like,
if you could hear, yeah, I reckon if she rolled her eyes, you'd probably hear it on the podcast.
Yeah. She was like, "It's all."
But the thing is, in this instance, I said to her, he got the blood in his mouth, and he didn't turn, and then it was completely forgotten, and she just simply said, "Well, maybe that's not how it's transmitted."
And then me and you go, "Ah!"
Slap foot.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Maybe it is a case.
Yeah.
We're what we're doing. We're taking knowledge. And you need to remember that this is kind of doing new things with zombies, and it's transmitted by a bite. Maybe it just isn't done by blood in mouth. It could be as simple as that. It's not satisfying,
but it is.
But it explains it.
But it completely goes back, and I'm gonna shoot you down for how you spoke about your wife. In the Iron Man 3, when I saw Iron Man 3, I heard somebody else talk about it. I can't remember who it was now. And they were saying there's a definite point in the plot of Iron Man 3 where they give up and they stop believing it. And they were like, "I know it sounds really weird because I was sat there and then all of a sudden this thing happens." I was like, "Bullshit!" That's not real. I'm calling bullshit on this now. And then he sort of was joking that he imagined his mate leaning over and going, It's all bullshit, dude." Do you know what I mean? A guy flying around in an iron suit. Do you know how thick that suit would have to be to survive attack? And you're like, "No, shut up! I believe that." And it's true. There's a moment in most films that you give up on where you start off and you're like, "Iron Man can fly. I believe that. Zombies are that quick. I believe that. Blood in his mouth. Yeah, I believe that. He didn't turn, he's not immune, and we're never going to talk about this again." Bullshit! Do you know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right.
People come back to life and bite the living, fine. You know, I'm. You tell me that's what happens in the universe. Fine. Don't then treat me like an idiot.
It's like if you expect me to believe that you can bite people and turn them into zombies, you have to sell me the fact that blood in mouth equals zombie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's simple math.
I
They
am
teach
not,
this in schools.
I am not an idiot.
I know exactly what you mean, and it was a little because it was so powerful that it was ready to jump.
Yeah.
It surprises me it wasn't brought up again, but
Yeah.
again, I think we'll cover this later on in the film.
Now, after he gets saved and everything else, he then gets the main plot, point in
Including the
film.
awesome zombies throwing himself off the building.
Yeah,
That
which
is just
you've mentioned.
beautiful.
Is he needs to go around, try and find the source of the thing to find a cure. I know we're skipping over this, but it is very plot heavy.
Yeah.
Completely understand why the wife. I mean, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier on. Why the wife stayed behind, Brad Pitt goes off. You've got two really awesome scenes. One in North Korea, where they land, try and figure out what's going on. You think you're on board when that guy does the speech on the plane about Mother Nature being a serial killer, and like all serial killers wants to be caught. I was like, this is amazing.
No, I thought that was a little bit.
Did you not like that?
No.
I really like, but I think it showed his naivety.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you that.
The
But I
fact-
thought it was
Because Brad Pitt completely doesn't respond to it, and it's just like, you're a bit f***ing, you've got no idea.
which is exactly how I thought, but that's
Yeah.
probably due to my subtle training in army background.
Yeah. He was like, you've got no idea. Like, you're right, and it's very interesting, but you've got no idea. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Which is why I've got to come with you, and I've got to leave my family. Aren't I with this idiot?
Yeah.
Gets off the plane, it's raining, runs around with the gun, shoots himself. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, it's a free for all. All is,
I loved that, and again, it's something I talked to my beloved about, and she was kind of like, "Oh, that bit where that scientist just runs off the plane and shoots himself in the head, that was really." I thought she was going to say, "Oh, that was really rubbish" or something.
Yeah.
So that was brilliant, and I think I know why, because it just helped. It's breaking another trope.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's kind of like, right, the team's together. They got the scientists, they got the army guy, they got the main hero. They're at the source of the action. They're going to run out, tear shit up. Everything's going to be fine. The scientist has just slipped on the way out the plane and shot himself in the head. It's that real. It gives you that feeling of hopelessness, really.
Yeah.
And you said earlier on where you get there and you think, what would I do?
Mm.
It is because it's kind of like in your mind you're thinking, what the hell are they going to do?
Yeah.
It's the same way you think, what am I going to do? It's like, well, what now?
Yeah. What, do you keep going? Do you go home? Like,
Exactly. And by that point, because in your mind you're thinking, what now? And you're kind of
you're
trying
there.
to process
Yeah.
it. Action's still happening on the screen, and you get that sensation of kind of the anxiety and the panic that you've got to react, you've got to do things now. You don't know what you're doing, but just move.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really cool. And the scene in Jerusalem where they come over the wall, you've all seen it. It's incredible. Do you know, like, whoever had that idea of, and the bit for me, the bit I love almost more than the wall shot, do you know what I mean, which I'll call it, was the bus. When all the zombies have come over the wall, they're piling down, they're running at all the living people in the city, so much so to the point where they all, like, I mean, I can only compare it to footage of a massive wave again, smashing into a bus and, like, spilling over the top.
Yeah.
And that bit for me, I think, because, do you know what I mean? I don't know how to, something of that scale is amazing, and I go, wow, but it doesn't really hit home.
Yeah.
Whereas I know how big buses are.
Exactly.
I know how heavy buses
exactly.
are. And that do you know what I mean? If the Jerusalem wall bit was the cake, where you're like, and the other thing, you know what's happening, and the people on the other side of the wall don't, and there's that real kind of that anxiety you were talking about, like, what now? Like,
yeah, exactly.
type thing. But the bus really hammered that home.
It really did, and I know that the bit you mean where they're just charging at it and the thing tips over.
And they're spilling over the top.
It's
and
just
through
them
it, you know
using
what I
their
mean?
bodies as weapons again, and I think that's kind of what makes these zombies feel dangerous and sets them apart. Whereas they are actually, they want to bite people, and they really don't. They give the smallest shits about themselves in the path to actually do it. And again, one of those scenes, they put it in the trailer, but it's things like that in the trailer that make you want to see this as opposed, and you're not going to think it's just another zombie film.
And those aren't the only scenes where you see that, but they are the ones that hammer it home in the best. So I can see why they're in the trailer, but I was worried that was going to be it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
Actually, it was really cool.
And the bit just on the Jerusalem wall, where they're just kind of, I'm just emotional.
Yeah.
No, the bit on the Jerusalem when it starts and you see it building, and if you've seen the trailer, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
So the actual trick of the movie isn't so much, oh my god, there's a human pyramid of zombies. It's how it builds.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah.
And the kind of ferocity it builds at, and it's not so much that, it's seeing them swarm
Like ants. Yeah.
ants, rats, whatever you want to call
And
it.
the fact that all those extras all the zombies look different. Do you know what I mean? They all look like a different person. It doesn't look like your, a wall of your
it's not
generic.
copy and paste.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they're all moving in a similar but different. Do you know what I mean? And the shot that stayed with me is the shot of that really gaunt woman. The really gaunt zombie that was just walking into the wall that then heard the noise and turned, and she looked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and there was again nothing gory. She didn't have half the face hanging off or an arm missing and the veins coming out. She just looked like she'd been dead for a while.
Yep.
And somebody brought her back. Do you know what I mean? And that was one of the things that stayed with me that I keep thinking about is that woman kind of like that. And then her just getting lost in the swarm,
Yeah. I think it was just so nice what they did. I mean, I'm conscious we skipped a little bit of, was it Korea or Kuwait?
But they were the army.
The bit in Korea with the army when they're in the prison, just the briefest of touches on there.
Yeah.
I liked it. I really liked. And again, this film was breaking a lot of tropes. It was the army men, but it's not like goddamn special forces. Get that, It was really just the way they dealt with certain things, like the soldiers. They wanted to know what was going on back at home. That was their primary concern, and you bought that. You felt that was real, even so much to the point. Actually, going out on bicycles.
That was cool. Like for a minute, I thought it was going to be shit, but then
I kind
to be as quick as possible.
Quick and quiet. It makes sense. Yeah.
Rather than stomping, but yeah.
A couple of things. I'll say the bit I really liked, and then the bit I didn't like. The bit I really, really liked was when the captain or the head of the squad gets bit.
Oh yeah.
And he's just kind of like, the guy's got he's looking at him through the rifle of his gun. He's like, "I got you, captain. Just say the word."
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's all right. I got this." And it's really
exactly.
I feel I'm choking up now, but it's really touching.
Well, they behave like most army men in zombie movies are dicks.
Yeah.
They turn up, they're like, "Yeah, we've got guns."
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas actually they were like, we've been here.
They're likeable.
We've been here. We'll do our job. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was this air of, we know we're not going to make it through this.
It's kind of that begrudging acceptance, really, wasn't it?
That you often get in, that I would imagine maybe you'd often get in, or is what you read that soldiers go through in that situation, but not obviously a zombie apocalypse, but in battle of, do you know what, we can,
They just kind of knuckled that, and that bit there just brought it home. The one thing I didn't like, I thought it was a cheap trick when she used the phone to ring him,
and it was,
this film isn't perfect, and there are bits I didn't like, and that was one of them. I just thought you could have done it a different way.
Yeah.
By this point, and I'll be honest, at the start, I loved the family. I thought they were great. It was around this point when they're safely on the ship. I thought I could just take them or leave them.
Yeah.
They stop being. They're a footnote in the film from that point onwards. In fact, up until later on, when he writes, "Tell my family I love them,"
you forget.
I'd literally forgotten they existed, because they kind of, at the start, she's a strong woman, the kids, he's got a family, he loves them. They go on a boat, he goes off to Kuwait, it's quite emotional, but then she accepts it, which is a very mature thing to do, she obviously knows what it's going through. That really ends the peril for them.
And it's so, what's brilliant is you hate the fact they've been split up. You know what I mean? I can completely understand, she's got to stay, he's got to go, you see it. And you were literally kind of weaned off them, in that you were like, I want to know what's happening to the family. Oh, bugger all.
But I stopped caring pretty quickly.
Yeah, because I think, and the shots of them by the time the phone rang, that was it.
The first time he made that phone call,
yeah,
exactly. The first phone call they made was really nice, because they both knew everything was.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, his world was turning into shit. Her world was turning into shit, because they obviously didn't want them to be on there. There was that subtle comment that soldier made saying, "Oh, there's too many people. That's why the water tastes like jet fuel."
Yeah.
But when they had that phone call, I think it's what you do with the other half. You lie and you say everything's fine, and you really got that. As soon as that phone call ended, I started to forget about the family.
Yeah.
And when she made that phone call,
they seemed unnecessary, and
it did seem it kind of. I'll call it. I think it was just a cheap trick.
And also, I don't think she'd do that by that point, because she's established as like I don't think she'd. he says, "Look, I'll ring you. I'm clearly in the shit."
This,
you know.
it's just a complete break of logic. It's like,
Yeah.
right, well, my husband's in Zombie Central in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Now's a good time to call.
And again, it didn't ruin it, but because everything up to that point had been so solid, I think would be, in any other film you'd forgive it completely.
Yeah.
But setting yourself such a high standard, and this is smack bang in the middle almost as well, it was difficult. It's just something we know. So.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I've got to say, why do the armies always insist on using mobile phones that don't text?
Yeah, or anything like that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it was just another thing that was,
Yeah, I mean, the Kuwait bit was great.
Yeah.
Kuwait, Korea? Why do I keep saying Kuwait?
Korea. I don't know why you said Kuwait. But
We'll just have to find and replace on the
Yeah.
podcast. Find Kuwait, replace Korea, find all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was really good. I just didn't like the bit with the phone. This point, I'm forgetting about the family. When it goes to Jerusalem and you see the swarm of zombies, the family,
Awesome. Yeah.
they're dead to me by that point. I just completely out of my mind.
So then we move on. The plane scene is one of the best. I thought they weren't going to do it. Once they were on the plane, I was like, do you know what? I was like, do you know what? It'd be great if they just. Do you know what I mean? How would you survive it? But I was like, you can't survive that. So they won't
What are we
do
talking about here?
The zombies on the plane.
Oh yes.
Because I was like, when they got on the plane, I was like, you get an outbreak on that thing, you are, and you're in a plane and all that.
Did you not think it was that? I want to call her Sonic, even though that's not her name. It's like Songar or something.
We've missed a bit.
Yes.
Don
grabs his wrist in an intimidating manner.
We'll jump.
Yeah.
We'll jump back, but I thought they weren't going to do that because I was like, everyone is dead. If
Yeah.
if that happens, they're all dead, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So I thought they weren't going to do it, but yeah, the important thing is that the family died, but because obviously I'd had the gender roles thing in my head. The female soldier, who I took a bit of offence because I was listening to another review of the film, and they said, "Oh, he kind of gets this sidekick," and I was like, "She's not a sidekick. She was more badass than he was." Do you know what I mean?
Segun, that's it.
Segun, yeah.
Segun, that's why I'm thinking
It's
Sonic.
Sega, yeah.
Segun.
But actually, I suppose there's no other way to describe her without spoiling the plot of the film.
Oh, this is a spoiler-heavy episode.
Yeah. So I let it go, but I was, I hugely take offence. Going back to the thing about subject, not object. Do you know what I mean? She made her own decisions and acted, on her own. She didn't, wasn't fluent English, so she didn't say very much, which was a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But actually, it was fine because of the context of the character. It was fine. It was, I could get over it. But there's a bit in which she gets bitten, and she gets bitten on the hand, basically. And Brad Pitt, without missing a beat, cuts the hand off.
Yeah.
And starts to wrap it up. And this is another one of those scenes where you hear him counting again. Is she going to turn? Isn't she going to turn?
Absolutely.
And they've got her pinned down, and the guy's got a gun to her head, and you're like, is she going to turn? Do you know what I mean? And it's such a good scene, and then you realise she's not going to turn, and you're like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But you always kind of expect it, because they'd alluded to previously the fact that sometimes it was taking up to 10 minutes for them to turn.
Yeah. So you weren't sure if later on, and that's why when we were on the plane, I was like, she might turn, and
That was my thought. I think that's everyone's thought. That was everyone's thought.
She's dangerous. Do you know what I mean? She goes on the plane.
Play it safe, just shoot her.
Well, this is, but you.
That's what you're thinking. Though,
Yeah. And you were like, but I don't want you to shoot her because she's, I've bonded with this woman who doesn't talk called Sagan,
Yeah.
And it's to the credits film. To the credits film. To the film's credit.
Yep.
It's still early. It's still only 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that you don't, but it's it's cool. But the zombie
when they're getting onto the plane, I mean, just the actual part where they get onto the plane, it's another brilliant. It's good. When they were doing the shooting, to really good effect, they showed the sweeping shots of the zombie. Not overused like in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Dare I say it? Where I think in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, there's so many sweeping and panning shots, you could literally get dizzy watching that film. But in this, they get it's nice. Sometimes it'll pull away and you see all the zombies just cheesing it after the plane. But the scene when they actually get onto the commercial plane as well, I think it works. Kind of had to suspend my disbelief at some points where like just there's a zombie apocalypse going, this plane's about to take off, and the pilot's like, oh, some guys, just let them on, in front of the plane, that's fine. I thought,
Yeah. Well, they
if I
did
was
have
that
guns,
pilot,
and they were.
yeah, that's true. But if I
But
was
yeah,
that
yeah.
pilot, I would have just taken
Just
off.
go, yeah.
I don't know, these people, they mean nothing to me. But again, they get on the plane. The first aid with the vodka,
Yeah, that's a good scene.
it was good. You could,
Yeah.
it was good acting by
It's
her.
intense,
She
yeah,
did
yeah.
well, considering she didn't say much.
Yeah.
But you felt the pain. She was down in that vodka like God knows what. That little chihuahua kind of gave that implication
That she might
that
turn,
something
yeah.
was there, because you see the shot showed the dog barking, but you couldn't quite see what it was barking at.
Yeah.
So you assume it's her. Quick question: you know the bit where I'm not even going to bother saying spoilers. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
The bit where that zombie pops out, is it a toilet or is it an elevator?
I think it's the lift.
I thought it was a lift, and I was talking to Jess about it. It's like, why would a plane have a lift? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Because you get on bigger planes, there's a lift that you can go down to the storage.
Right. Okay. No, I'll buy that. That makes sense to me.
I only know that because of Executive Decision.
I saw that DVD downstairs. Is that any good?
It may be an audio commentary for
I
today.
was reading the back of it, and I just thought this is amazing.
It's ill seen, but yeah, I know that because they use. Anyway, I don't
great effect.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
imagine.
But yeah, that's what I imagined. That it came from because she pushed a button, didn't she? The bong.
Yeah, exactly.
And then because it looked like she was going to go down to the cabin to get something. And
And
then,
yeah, I was thinking, why would you press a button?
and that was when me and you looked at each other. We were sort of like, because that's the point where I'd gone, they're not going to do it. They're not going to. Everything says it's going to happen, and was head in hands, and we were looking at each other like, And that's the thing. But it was better. It wasn't a jump scare because it was genuine tension. Do you know what I mean?
I think you knew it was coming, so you weren't going to jump at it.
Lots of people like jump scare is kind of quiet, loud noise.
Yeah.
The what is it? The Purge, the whatever the trailer was for the Conjuring. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, that's right.
And I hate that. It's the opposite of scary. It's the opposite of tension. You're just giving me a cheap adrenaline rush with a loud noise that will not affect me in 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Or even if an hour later. Whereas it's kind of like the best people, Red Letter Media, check them out, redlettermedia.com, best people to ever describe it. It's like when you walk around a haunted house at a theme park and you're like, I know stuff's gonna jump out at me, boing, and a kind of vampire comes out of a coffin. It's like and you're like and then you sort of walk around. Jump scares are the equivalent of that, very cheap horror, and often in horror films they're not done in Paranormal Activity aren't done in like a scary house with cobwebs and things like that. It's done in a middle class white person's house where you go around and you're like, oh, the door.
Paranormal Activity, bad example. There weren't that many jump scares in that, I thought. It was more of the building
in the later ones, sorry.
Oh,
They're
well,
like
by the time you get to 3 or 4 of any franchise, they've gone for the cheap tricks.
But you know what I mean? That's the example. Whereas this film didn't do that. It had proper tension because you knew stuff the characters in the movies didn't and things like that. And also, they're getting rid of the zombies once they were...
I think at the point where Segan and Jerry,
Brad
Pitt's character,
Gary, Jerry or
Jerry.
Jerry, it was Joe, but it was G. Sorry,
crazy spelling.
Yeah,
but at the point where they look at each other, and he's got a grenade, he's on a plane, the zombies come in, all the pieces are there, and he kind of looks at Segan and she looks at him like, "Am I actually going to do this?" And the audience look at each other thinking, "Is he actually going to do this?" And then you're looking at the screen thinking, are they actually going to do this? And then at some point, it's kind of like...
The bit before then, though, that I really want to point out, because it goes back to my earlier point about subject and object and things like that, is... I mean, again, I can't hold it up as a feminist film, but it was something for me I appreciated, having this world opened up to me all of a sudden. And this film being a really good example of do's and don'ts. Do you know what I mean? Was when it starts to go to shit... things start, Brad Pitt's trying to do his best. He's fighting off that zombie with the suitcase. Do you remember when he sort of and the thing still, the same one is just still coming at him. And she just, you think she's a fucking goner because you don't see her. She's got the hand, she's hunched over, but she's got the pain together. She gets up, and you don't even see her do that. You just hear a gunfire, then you see it's her, completely calm, completely collective, just taking him out like there's no tomorrow. And I really like that, is that she wasn't the escort mission in the video game version.
Good,
look after
good
Sagan.
managing.
Sagan's lost an arm now. She's dead weight. Look after the woman, who again, has quite asexual. I mean, she looks womanly, but she's got a shaved head. She looks like a woman you'd expect to find in the army, and I really like that. She wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, watch out for Debbie's big boobs and the hand that's missing. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't a blonde.
Yeah,
do
I
you
know
what I mean.
Yeah, you kind of threw me that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know what you
Her
mean.
uniform doesn't zip up all the way. Do you know what I mean?
And then, so we've blown up the plane. The zombies have gone
No,
outside.
we haven't said it. This is the thing. The look between them, I didn't feel was a kind of, am I going to do this? I saw it as a, can I do this? Are you all right? Do you know what I mean? Because he takes the grenade off of her. She's got the grenade. He takes it off of her, and they look, and to my mind, they share a nod of.
It's a heavy look. A lot of people take it a different way, but you're absolutely
But I
right.
took
There's
it as
a lot
kind
went
of,
through that
we're
look.
mutually on board with this.
Yeah.
And he throws it, and they both jump down, and there's a hole in the plane sucking all the zombies out, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. I think my first thought, and it just sounds like a really stupid one, I was kind of like, you can't throw a grenade on a plane.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of incredulous, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's just because I couldn't really process.
Yeah, what had just happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, you can't do that. That's not right. But it was just, again, I kind of bought it. I mean, thankfully, I've never seen that kind of thing happen, but I imagine that it played out as it should have. So all the zombies that were standing around, they got thrown out the side of the plane. Brad and Sagan got themselves strapped in. It was a very slow descent, and actually, when the plane crashed in Wales/Scotland/generic English
the
country,
watershed moment of the film, in my opinion.
Right, I'll ask you what you mean about
Yeah.
that. But when it crashed,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty convincing as well.
Yeah.
It hit hard.
Yeah.
I thought there's no real way to get around something in a film where the only two survivors are the main protagonists.
Yeah.
And there's no real way to get around that. It's a thing, a big disaster happens, the main character has to survive.
Yeah.
But again, I think by this point I was just so impressed with what I was seeing
that it was fine. You'd let it go.
It's not how much I let it go. It's kind of I felt I had to accept
Yeah,
that
yeah.
certain tropes had to remain.
Otherwise, the film doesn't. Yeah.
Otherwise,
It's all bullshit. We need to accept some.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got to do things.
Yeah.
There's no way that plane's going to crash and the protagonists are both dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Credits.
Thanks very much, shitlords. Thanks for the 750. I'll see you later.
I would have rather that, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you mean watershed moments?
So you knew nothing about the film's troubled production history.
No, and I'm kind of glad I didn't.
I knew everything about the film's troubled production history.
Yeah, I've just been kind of having a peep on the IMDb, and it does say that they rewrote the screenplay in the middle of production to create a whole new third act. So this would be the start of the third act.
And it's up until that point, the film has completely been. I mean, the film was delayed by a year to rewrite the third act. This wasn't, the only other film I know that's done this is Apocalypse Now. And that's Apocalypse Now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't talk about the two in the same league. They delayed the film another year, going massively over budget, to kind of bring in new writers to kind of come up with a better ending. And actually, I think it really, really hindered the film, and it hindered it in a number of ways that I do want to get onto, but I'll talk about it in a plot sense first. Is up at that point, everything has been about finding the source. Getting close to the source, finding out what's going on.
Yeah.
India, they say. India is where the source came from. It's going to be really difficult once you get there, but India is where it started. They talk about India on the plane. All of a sudden, it's literally like somebody said, we can't go to India anymore. We've rewritten the ending. We need to go somewhere cheaper. Does anybody know a cheaper place to film? We can go to Scotland. No, it's a bit too... Wales. There. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt himself, the most expensive, it's a real giveaway that the most expensive actor to keep in never says the word Wales before they get there. They get all the other characters around him, partly in dub dialogue, the bit when the guy's on the satellite phone to him, you don't really see him say Wales, you hear it from afar.
Yeah.
And then the only time it's explained is by by the plane pilot, who's had the phone call that we don't get to see. Do you know what I mean? He opens the door and goes, I've had a chat to somebody, and he's told me that for the plot, we can't go to India, we need to go to Wales. And at that point, I was like, okay, look, I know there's been rewrites. This is just me knowing about it. You completely wouldn't notice it. But to me, the film took a real big kind of downward turn once they got to Wales. because I think it just dropped a standard in my book. Now, I don't think there was anything wrong with it, and I think it was a great, as a zombie sequence on its own, it was fine. But the problem was, like I said, most things up to that point in the movie had been so watertight and solid. It was brilliant, and that film to me felt like a B movie from that point on.
I could punch you.
Really?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a B movie to you at that point.
I think I'm not going to punch you.
Okay, right.
But I think it's my way of eloquently saying that I feel strongly about
Okay,
this.
yeah.
I really think ignorance is bliss.
That was going to be the title of the blog that I was trying to write.
Because I think if people, if anyone's listening to this and they haven't seen the film, why?
You idiot! Yeah, I would never. That's why I didn't want to talk about this on the other one. But
no, exactly. But I'm glad you listen to this and you've watched the film already, because I saw it without knowing about the rewrite, and it just kind of. I was happy not knowing it.
Yeah.
It never ever occurred to me that at that point on the plane, that's when everything started changing. That's the watershed moment. Now, I don't know if you were looking for it, and that's why it was obvious to you, but I completely bought it. To me, it kind of said, shit's happening, you got to change a plan pretty quick, sharp. I think because we're from the UK, it seems unlikely there'd be a WHO centre in Cardiff.
Well, just outside. No, they said Wales. They didn't say where, but we know it's in near
He said
Cardiff
Airport he was going to.
Oh, yes, I suppose, actually. Yeah.
So, I just bought it and I went along with it. And in fact, by this point, I was quite hyped that they were coming to the UK.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems I have with films is everything happens to America.
Yeah. It wasn't that they were coming to the UK. It completely wasn't. Even though I noticed, I knew, do you know what I mean? We can't film somewhere that looks like India. Do you know what I mean? I did the movie maths in my head while watching it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know why they're coming to the UK. Didn't have a problem with it. But for me, it was things like the quality of the zombies, although still scary, was not the same.
They took a bit of a
as they were before. And I know why that was, because obviously to essentially another third of the budget, if you to be silly about it. The zombies, kind of the way they moved, the way they looked. Do you know what I mean? And it was the time in which we got the most exposure. The bit when it's glass to glass, with the zombie in the end, he looked in comparison to the woman we saw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I was like, you look fucked up.
Now you're saying it, I'm buying it.
And his gnashing and all that. Do you know? And like I said, ignorance is bliss. It totally played for you. And I'm not trying to ruin your enjoyment of it or saying that you were wrong to, but. For me, and I'll tell you why it really bothered me kind of after as well. There's also the tiniest cameo that we have to call that now by Matthew Fox.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Because Matthew Fox, we jump back to the family that the plotters hoped we might have forgotten about by now because of the rewrites. They need to get the family off the boat, because that happens in all versions of the script, and it would be too expensive to keep the family on the boat anymore. Fair enough. So he turns up, and he's a fucking well-known actor, probably quite expensive to keep hold of. And he goes up to the family, and it looks like he's about to say something really important. And you're like, I know he's going to say something really important because it's Matthew Fox, and it's the biggest giveaway that the family were meant to come back into the movie more at the end and never do, because otherwise, why would you pay Michael Fox to read
Matthew Fox,
sorry. Why would you pay Matthew Fox to read one line and then shepherd the family into the helicopter?
No, I think you're right, and I kind of now I see it, I get it. But again, at the time, I saw it was Matthew Fox.
Yeah. Because I pointed out to you, I went, "That's Matthew Fox," and you were like, "Oh yeah."
I honestly think that because I was ignorant to the fact it was rewritten, I enjoyed this film a lot more than I would have done if you'd
known that. Yeah.
And I think I almost feel frustrated almost that you kind of knew that
and I didn't
in advance, and I wish you didn't know that,
because I could have enjoyed it.
I think you would have seen it differently.
The thing, like, we talked about Nikon being product placement.
Oh my god.
There is no product placement all the way through that movie, and if it is, it's unnoticeable. It's fine. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. Maybe Air India or whatever's flight.
I think Nokia on the phones, maybe, but do you know what I mean?
But there's very kind of subtle, paying for the movie product placement that you'd never notice. In the third act, though, when hits the fan and we need new money and we're trying to film it again, there is a moment in which Brad Pitt drinks a Pepsi that if there isn't a World War Z Pepsi advert on TV at the moment, I'm highly surprised because he stands by a vending machine. All the vending machines say Pepsi. He's holding what you can clearly see as a Pepsi, but they hide the logo for integrity or whatever at this point, and it's literally a.
Oh,
do you
come
know?
on.
Do you know what I mean?
It is not that bad.
It is.
It's not that
so that bad. Do you know what? I've been. Have you seen The Greatest Movie Ever Sold?
Yes.
It's so that bad. It's really like it
It
really
is
bugged
not.
me.
Come
And
on,
it
vending
only-
machines usually have either Coke or Pepsi or something like
Yeah,
that on
I
the front,
know.
or a big Tango. It's inevitable. That's
But
the
we
way
didn't
they're
need
made.
that. We didn't need that. I didn't need to see him get any drink or anything at all. I just wanted to see him
Yes, and
leave. Do you know what I mean? It was so unnecessary. And for a film that had been so watertight, it had issues that we'd had. You know, the zombies took a turn. All the things we loved about the film left in the zombie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong for liking it.
it almost feels like you're bad-mouthing my wife when
Does
you
it?
bad-mouth this movie, and I'm not saying it's
To be honest,
that
you
good.
badmouth your wife enough.
I do not. I
no,
love
no,
my
sorry.
wife.
In this podcast, in your
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
kind of-
true. There's the magic of editing.
Yeah.
So there'll be no evidence of that. But I'm going to concede. I don't want to. I'm going to concede there are certain bits towards the end which, let's say, aren't as good.
yeah.
And I think that's because my bar was set so high by the preceding
The
film.
first one, yeah.
The zombies, they're not as good, but they're not bad still.
No,
I think
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's less of them, the power in the zombies is the fact that when they swarm,
Yeah.
they swarm. But I think when there are, well, there's less than, they say 80 zombies work there, but there are less than that. When there are less of them, I think that obviously that is not going to have that same power
Yeah,
of
yeah.
scale.
No, I
So you kind of, you're going back to regular zombie
But
there.
the point is, in the budget, probably in the original script. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, there was no reason for it to be unnecessary.
We can't review a film that hasn't been made.
Completely fine, but my review of the problem, the other thing as well is this film got me hyped for it a year ago,
Right.
and then said, no, you're not allowed to see it now because we want to make it even better.
Mm.
Essentially, do you know what I mean? Or do you know what? We've got the ending right, and I was like, max respect for a film that goes, do you know what? We want to redo the ending. We want to end strongly. But
Mm.
when I was kind of left with, and this is what you came up with, I felt a bit, you know,
But the thing, we don't know what the ending was before,
For the other
and
one.
it could have been a lot worse.
it would be, yeah, completely. But at least it would have been up if, I don't know. Like, I completely agree with you. The ending
Mm.
we've got is the ending we've got, and I'm fine with that. I loved it when they're creeping through the corridors.
Maybe when it's on Blu-ray or DVD,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
do the alternative ending. We'll have a
When-
look at that then.
When they're creeping through the corridors, when Sagan is with them, which I thought was brilliant because I was like, they're totally going to leave her behind because she's a woman with one hand. But when she comes and she's got the
She
baseball
took the
bat,
gun. Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean?
like,
It's-
Brad
yeah.
Pitt's, that's too loud, and she takes the gun. And it's kind of like, yeah, I'll buy that.
Do you know
'cause
what I
she
mean?
Obviously, she's a soul. Yeah.
I love the creeping through the corridors. I love that we've got to be quiet or we're going to disturb the dormant zombies. Do you know what I mean? My feelings didn't change about the movie at all.
Mm.
But knowing what I know, and actually, the conclusion I was trying to come to in the blog, but I couldn't come to, was it my fault because did I hinder my own enjoyment of the movie because I found out so much about it before I watched it,
Mm.
or did the fact that the movie, you know, the film was so keen to publicize it before it was finished, publicize the fact they were going to, you know what I mean?
Mm.
The only reason I could get access to that information was because the studio would put it out there. And if it was going to hinder my enjoyment, why did they put it out there for me in the first place?
Mm.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I was struggling with that kind of. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a big believer in I try not to watch too many trailers. I try not to read too many reviews before I go.
My eyebrow is so quizzical right now.
Yeah, like I mean, I'll know like if a movie is in production.
Mm.
You know, I like to know who's going to be in it, who's going to make it, and all that. But just knowing the name of, you know, knowing J.J. Abrams is going to make the new Star Wars and knowing who he might cast doesn't tell me what the end product's going to look like.
Okay, no, that's fair
And
enough.
so
yeah, yeah.
with Star Trek Into Darkness, for example, I knew, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be in it, and I knew that it was the same cast returning and all that. But
Mm.
I purposely didn't watch too many trailers or read too many reviews, you know, to try and go in with an open mind. So, you know, reading the stuff about the production history, I didn't think was going to affect my viewing of the film so much
Mm.
because I thought it would be more seamless than it was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I thought my knowing of, didn't the third ending, did you think the third ending looked tacked on because it was changed, blah blah blah. What I didn't realize was that it was going to bring. I get the impression that actually, and this is a guess on my part, that was like the third or fourth idea, and they'd actually started filming the other 3 or 4, decided it wasn't going to work, and so the budget was getting less and less and less.
I think.
But it was still, don't get me wrong, I love the movie.
Absolutely.
I'd recommend it to anyone, and it's a great ending for what it was.
I think.
But I think you can understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and I think also, I want to get back on plot a bit more, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it is a testament to, like you said at the start, how this film sticks with us.
Yeah.
That you feel so passionately about it that you want those details. You wanted it so much to be right. And then I feel so passionately about it that I kind of I've almost gone the blinder.
Yeah.
I will hear no wrong about
Yeah,
this
exactly.
thing. But we're both right in so much that this film really
is
hit
good
us that
and solid,
hard.
and yeah.
But just to kind of bring it
Yeah.
back to the plot. So we're in and we both said about this and we love this. We're in Wales, where apparently no Welsh people
No
live,
Welsh
work.
speaking or
No,
accent people live.
No, not at all. They're
And that's fine. I didn't complain that we didn't see any North Korean people in North Korea.
No, that's
Do
true.
you know what I mean? I thought about that after. And the North Koreans must have sat there going, "What?" you know what I mean? I didn't complain that actually, the people who were in Jerusalem looked like they were from that part of the world, but I didn't hear anybody speaking. Do you know what I mean?
Well, no, that absolutely right now you say it. I don't remember seeing any Koreans in Korea.
Also, no Korean landmarks, which I liked, but
Well, it was at night,
Yeah.
maybe.
But anyway,
a dark set, a plane
so
in the rain.
everyone in there are Americans everywhere, is all we can say about that.
Oh
And
yeah, everywhere.
they mostly don't get eaten by zombies.
Yeah,
to
that's
talk
true.
to Brad Pitt
Especially
when he
the
arrives.
attractive ones.
Yeah.
But in Wales, what do we say at the end? Like the bit where they're doing the huge human pyramids
Yeah.
anywhere. It's just the foundations of Welsh people.
Yeah.
That's the only place they can be.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're in Wales.
All 80 of our Welsh staff were sent to the disease. Really, that's a bit good. No questions, please. Anyway.
And also, there's a couple of geography questions. It's like,
Yeah.
Cardiff, and then they're walking through like this sleepy town. And
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
admit maybe the plane didn't make it to
No,
Cardiff.
kind of all that. Yeah.
But if you look geographically where Cardiff is and where they're coming from, I mean, you've got like the M4, you've got Newport, you've got some pretty big.
It was just things like that. Do you know what I mean? It just felt like.
It's the American version of Wales.
And do you know what I mean? And the reason it's like that is because I bet you somebody looked at it and said, "Look, we need to crash this." Do you know what I mean? Can we crash the plane into a motorway? No, this is the second ending. You've got no fucking money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
You can have green acres of space and the plane will crash. We've already
no, that's
edited
true.
the one. We've already got teams of people CGIing the plane crashing in India. Because as well, when the plane blows open, that sky doesn't look like we're in Wales.
I like to imagine that maybe they had like 100 Indian extras ready to go in makeup, and then like somebody just comes through with a loud hand and say, "Right,
Sorry.
do any of you speak Welsh? No, all right, you're out."
I mean, this is the thing that to me that I was like, do you know what? How bad was the other ending that you shot this one on such a low budget? Does that make sense? I was kind of like, completely. I cannot judge a film that we didn't see.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth there.
Right, but I was sort of like, I really want to know, because I was like, how bad could it be that you thought, no, let's anyway, it doesn't matter.
We'll take it at face
Yeah,
value.
yeah.
So they're in Cardiff. It's always a thrill for me when you see like
Places
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, things that are familiar, even if it's just the license plate, the way the houses
Yeah.
look. It's always a thrill when you see Sagan and Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
So Sagan and Jerry, we keep kind of using
Yeah.
the actor's name for one and the character
Yeah,
for the other.
well.
'Cause I'm sorry, whoever that
He
actress
is Brad
who
Pitt
plays
in it, though,
He
yeah.
is Brad Pitt.
But it's all shit, dude.
Yeah.
No, Sagan's
Zombies
not really in it.
bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, the only thing I believe is real. I believe Sagan is real
Yeah,
in real
yeah,
life.
exactly.
Brad Pitt, actor, all the rest.
Well, maybe that shows how much of a better, more, by the third act, with the rewrites and everything, we were more into
Can
Sagan
we
than
stop calling
Sorry.
it acts?
Okay.
It's like I say, I just feel so strongly
Yeah.
about this film,
Okay.
and it's bringing back flashback memories of being rewritten.
Hmm.
But they're walking down the street in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Bunny ears. Cardiff.
In Wales, to
In
be
Wales.
fair,
Let's generalise. In
Yeah.
the UK.
Yeah.
So they're walking down the street in the UK. They find the World Health Organization building.
It turns out Malcolm Tucker works there,
Yeah.
which was the bet. I was like, "Eh,
Yeah.
off the f***ing gurney, you f***." What does this look like? Charity.
We might have to edit out that bit from the podcast.
What is it?
That little C-bomb you dropped there.
Did I?
You did.
Ah,
Yeah.
we'll bleep it.
We'll put some humorous bleep in there.
Boing.
I just cut that bit and paste it over the top.
Well, we'll actually put Malcolm Tucker's over the top of me. Why is Malcolm Tucker's pretty spot on? Did I drop a C-bomb? I'm really sorry. Mum, I'm sorry.
If you've never seen The Thick of It, which I assume is what
My
you're
mum won't watch World War Z, therefore she'll never listen to this kind of podcast. So I'll be fine. And to everyone else,
There's just parents sat with
sorry.
young kids
Could you
listening to
imagine,
the World War Z
literally,
review.
someone has tuned in for like an hour and 20 minutes to listen to us break the scene down, break the film down scene by scene, and they've gone, oh, yeah, it's really true. Was that a C word? No! Balls to this, unsubscribe! Anyway.
Oh, I can hear the stats drop. But anyway.
Yeah.
So they go to the World Health Organization. I really liked, and again, this is kind of me coming in with no knowledge. I think, in fact, I'll go as far as to say, and I know this may not, sit well with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought the ending was done considerably really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was, everything made sense, and I've said it to you. I said it to you at the time, and I'll say it now. Everything felt precise, regardless of what endings were.
Yeah.
There was I think what this film had, which I really appreciated, there was logic. Things happened and things made sense. I even remember saying to you at the time, there was nothing fluffy.
Yeah.
And I think the part in the WHO as well, it felt like it made sense.
Yeah.
Everything happened you'd expect to happen.
It was completely the same group of filmmakers that made the phenomenal stuff we loved in the beginning and the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That were making the end. But the problem for me is like I said, the kind of, why are you constraining those people? Do you know what I mean? And those people's judgment up to now has been good.
Yeah.
I feel like, I know it's a really kind of a massive assumption to make, but I feel like a studio stepped in somewhere and said no to a group of people. I really wanted to see them finish what they'd started.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it was produced by Brad Pitt's company, Plan B.
Plan B. So that's why I'm also confused as to where the issue comes from. Do you know what I mean? Because if it was Brad Pitt making a Brad Pitt vehicle, which it was awesome, but he has said that he'll never make a big budget film again, which also really upsets me. Because the same thing happened with, Sean Connery, no one's crying about that. But, big studio film, got screwed over, wasn't what it was. Again, we'll talk about the money side of this film in a minute.
All right.
But it confused me. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think the introduction of the new characters with the staff who work there, again, none of them Welsh, but I'll buy that. More specifically, the support staff as well. Like the main guys, was it Malcolm Tucker, the Scotsman and the other guy, the other vaguely Portuguese-looking fellow, actually.
He's probably in the Indian ending, and they couldn't cut him out for contract reasons.
So they gave him a British accent.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It could be. So yeah, they were all right, but the support staff, again, like I said about the logic, it made sense to me. They reacted how I'd expect them to react. I think
professional people in that environment.
Yeah. Brad Pitt's leap of super spoiler, if it's a palliative disease and it makes you immune, it made sense. How we got there was a little bit of a leap for me, for just seeing people weren't attacked. It was like, maybe these people are terminal, where they could have been many hundreds of thousands of things.
It felt like we'd missed a step somewhere. Like, where's the family's gone? How is he coming up with these? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
But again, it was the way it was explained as well. It wasn't.
Handled well.
He did not pull it out of his ass. It was not a War of the Worlds ending.
No.
Oh yeah, the bacteria in the air. Yeah, it's just
completely.
Don't talk about
same
it. Forget about it.
Talented filmmakers on exactly the same thing.
It's well, this thing is a virus, and like in the wild where animals will leave diseased carcasses and just things like that. And it was part of zombie lore that was new to me, but I could buy into because then it got me thinking about zombies weren't just mindless. Brains.
Yeah.
There was actually a purpose,
which
and
made them more
an
threatening.
intelligence.
Yeah,
exactly.
And a purpose as a swarm.
It was like think of it as wasn't like a zombie virus. It was like actually more of a parasite. Really, that these people who were infected, their infection wanted to spread and was making them do what they wanted to do. So again, I really like the logic that got to that point. That big, this is what we do. And then by that point, I knew enough about Brad Pitt's character that I bought what he wanted to do as well. Which was to go, and he wanted to go and get the deadly diseases and to briefly jump forward, he wanted to actually. It came to the point where he had to do it on himself, give himself the disease to get out alive. But that kind of build up to it, as you've mentioned, if I was being super critical, it did feel maybe like a forced stealth section. If we were talking like, video game tropes as well, it's like, right, we've got to be very, very quiet,
We're hiding from some zombies.
Exactly. And the bit where they've kind of got to dash across.
Yeah.
It was all right. It was good. It was tension building.
Yeah. Proper tension as well. Like
it was. Yeah. The tension. I'll give that ending actually. That whole ending. The tension was completely as it should be. They can do tension, appropriate tension, like you say. They're not jump scaring you. You feel. There's that kind of, again, and you can't get away from the tropes. They move like, oh, I just, Jurassic Park, I knocked a ladle over.
Yeah.
Oh, whoopsie.
Oh, didn't we crawl through that sense of dong?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like, this door's like, pause. This door's still creaky. Pause. But you can't get away from that, and it's just going to happen. And again, we want. What's the alternative? They make no noise, get the disease, happily ever after.
Yeah, completely. And
you've got to have that conflict, haven't you?
And then the film ends. He figures out what it is. It's camouflage. Mini montage of how the rest of the world's doing.
I don't know that bit when he's in the vault though. Is it the vault where he's getting the disease? Just that bit where he writes, "Tell my family I love them." Literally, at that point, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. He has a family." Yeah. But again, that could be.
It's not just Sagan.
Well,
But and I thought he was genuinely going to write, which one do I take, and they were going to like move the camera like up and down.
I thought they could move the camera.
No.
Yeah. To do that, where they do the shake of the nod.
I thought that would have been cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, what? Tell my family I love them, and then they go, oh, which potion do I take?
I like the fact where it's just a little bit. And I think it's just kind of like a bit of the B movie side that I love. Oh, if he takes one out the left box, he's going to be dead, and they're all mixed up, and it's kind of like, it's not a clever trick, but it's kind of like it's a bit of, oh, has he got the right one?
But and the other, he walks straight past them. Do you see that? He walks straight past them.
No, it's their son.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that he keeps repeating. Like once he's got out, he's so ecstatic. He just repeats what he's just seen and what we've all just seen. Did anybody not understand that? He just walks straight past him. It's because he's got the thing and the thing and the.
I'll draw you a picture.
Yeah.
But no, the teeth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it was
was kind of a new. It was different,
Yeah, that kind of tick because they move twitchy and.
Yeah, absolutely. But that last, let's not sing about the Pepsi. We talked about the Pepsi can. Yeah. This one's for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But just the bit at the end where he's walking,
and even
down the corridor.
Even the look on Brad Pitt's face says that he didn't want to do that.
Do you reckon?
Because he doesn't look. He did not look happy about having to do that. But anyway.
Well, the price you pay being a famous actor, I guess. But no, when he's walking, just that final bit, he's walking down the corridor. The zombies coming at him, and there was some music playing there, and it was perfect, and it was just a really beautiful moment. I really liked it. I thought that was quite a powerful scene. This guy, he's finally, that he's going to be fine because he just walked past that other zombie. But it's just, there's something about it. It's just kind of, it was that moment when you think he's done it.
Yeah.
It was that kind of the release, the relief at the end of the film, the kind of you've done it, everything is good.
Yeah, no, I really.
And it's by that point you start to come down a bit as well, and you've been kept on the tension high, you kept the plot, and you start to settle down.
He goes back to his family.
Yep.
We've got camouflage.
Yep.
The world isn't over. The war isn't over, sorry.
Yes, I like that a lot.
We've still got to do. Do you know what I mean? We don't know where the virus came from, blah, blah, blah. Loved it. Never going to be a sequel.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Won't make its money back.
Why?
Because
without rehashing old ground, they've spent a lot of money doing the endings.
Well, I don't, because in order to be financially successful as a movie, it will need to make back over half of what it cost to make. Does that make sense? So they'll need to make their money back and some in order to if you find out how much they spent on it in the end. That'd
Let's
be really
have a
interesting. Because, like I said, with with any film, the movie maths is if it just makes its money back, it's not a success.
Okay.
And
Right.
actually, I think the thing it will do is on DVD, it will make its money back. However, it'll never make enough that they'll warrant being a sequel. And if ever there was a franchise and a book, a franchise about zombies, proved with The Walking Dead that there's loads of places you can take it, that there should be a sequel.
The budget,
It's this,
yeah.
and I don't think there will be because of the money issue. I would love there to be, and if there's a studio out there that wants to prove me wrong, who I'm sure is
Because
tuning
right now
in,
Paramount is thinking,
yeah,
prove him wrong.
motherfucker, where does he live? Yes.
First a C-bomb and now this.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, to answer your question, the budget is a few estimates, roughly 190 million. Opening weekend in the USA was 66 million. What else we got? Some more numbers back here. So as of the 25th of June, as of 5 days ago, it's done 82 million. So it's coming up to roughly half the budget. Don't shake your head at me like that.
Never gonna happen.
It's not doing brilliantly.
No.
But I think this is a film that's going to do well on.
I reckon you could have said it was if you could have lost. I don't know. It's quite hard to say how much of that budget went towards.
Can I throw in a prediction onto this one?
Go for it. Yeah.
I think this movie is going to be in some way a poster child for 3D Blu-rays. I think there is a lot in this film. We didn't see it in 3D.
No.
We should throw it. We just saw it in 2D, and
I'm
I
very
don't
happy
think
about
it
that.
took a lot
No,
away.
yeah.
But I
don't think it took anything away, personally.
I think some 3D. Just a whole new
Yeah.
different. So I think as long as they do it right and they do the conversion over to Blu-ray, I think if I had a 3D TV, or in fact if I went into my local Currys or Dixon or whatever isn't in administration at time of speaking, if I went into one of them and they were playing this, especially the scene where they're coming over the bus,
Yeah.
or jumping on the helicopter, if they're playing that in 3D, I would love it. And I think it'll do well in DVDs and Blu-rays, but I think there's a lot in that film because it's not the 3D where things come out your face.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing The
kind of.
Final Destination,
Yeah.
the first 3D film I ever saw, and that is just basically spikes coming at your face, and it's like, oh, and you kind of recoil back. I honestly think, and I'll accept I may be wrong, I think this is going to do well on the DVDs, Blu-rays, and especially 3D.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It'll find its market on. My prediction is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I second that with a kind of making. I mean, let's say 200 million is what it needs to make its money back.
Yeah.
It needs to make 250 million. No. It needs to make 300 million. Really, its budget half added on in order to be a success. And I don't think it's going to make over 200 million on DVD sales alone. Or on Blu-ray, on your 3D, DVD, whatever, I don't think it's going to make that back. I think if it makes its money back, if it reaches that sort of 200 million mark, strong chance of a sequel. But even then, it's a big risk for a film that was such a tricky production and, forced the star to not want to be in Hollywood movies anymore.
I don't think I'd mind if it didn't have a sequel. I think I'm happy. I will take this as it is.
Completely.
I don't think Zack Snyder, Chris Nolan, and Brad Pitt would all be together and be on form to do a sequel.
Why would Zack Snyder and Brad Pitt and Christopher Nolan need to be involved?
Christopher Nolan produced it.
What was he?
He was a producer.
Was he?
Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he bloody was.
Sorry, we're staring at IMDb together.
Where is it?
Full cast. Go to cast and then full crew. Down.
Yeah.
How you doing there, listeners? Is this exciting podcast entertainment?
So directed by Mark Foster.
Forster.
Forster.
There's no on it.
I do apologise.
It's like reading things with a child.
Produced by.
He's not on the list.
I'm sure Chris Nolan had something to do with this.
Nah. I think they also fired their director of photography.
Right. Keep talking.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. If there's not a sequel, I'm not going to be upset. But if it had a strong ending, and there was ever a kind of franchise like this that could have a sequel, it was this, and it won't get one. I think, even though it sets one up, to have, even though it sets itself up to have one. If that makes sense.
So I am sure that Christopher Nolan has something to do. I'm going to have a look at it. Tell you what, I will let it slide. I will accept I'll be wrong on this.
Yeah.
But I'll just say, yeah, I don't mind if they don't do a sequel.
Can you look at the running time of the movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I really enjoyed it. I just think it's...
Wait, has our review actually gone on longer?
I think
I think it has.
Our spoiler talk, even not our review.
116 minutes.
Okay, no, the film goes on longer. That's fine. Well, we need to wrap it up soon.
What I might do, just to wrap it up,
yeah.
We've got the IMDb in front of us. There's just one goof that caught my eye.
Okay.
Because it's always good to have a look at those. When they're actually getting the Pepsis from the Pepsi machine in Cardiff, UK, it has American FDA nutritional information on.
Really?
Yeah.
And you saw that, did you? Or is it
no, it's not. Yeah, because I'm eagle-eyed.
Yeah.
What I do want to
just to go to show masturbation doesn't dim the faculties.
Lower the tone.
Yeah.
I just want to have a look at some of the reviews, because obviously we've put down our thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a quick flick through.
Once or twice.
Yeah, just on that. So just looking at some of the reviews on here. I mean, 111 out of 177 people found the following reviews for tagline: fast, scary, and much better than expected. 8 out of 10. It's a very long review, but just to kind of sum it up, he starts, I was dubious. This guy had he's a lot like us. He's seen the ratings and the early reviews, and he decided he didn't want to see it. His wife wanted to go, and he decided it was awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that
sums us up really
that's
well.
going to be what a lot of people,
Yeah.
I think quite a few people it's going to be a film that you don't actively want to see. I'll confess I only saw it because Jess really wanted to see it.
Wives.
To the point of buying it. Wives, man.
Yes.
They know shit.
Yes.
But
they just smell like the listings at the cinema. What was he?
Now this is interesting, and I might have to read a few of these, and this will probably be the one we close on. It's okay. The title is 5 out of 10. Sorry, folks, it's pretty pants, and I really wanted it to be good. He actually rated it 1 out of 10. So I'm not thinking he's the most consistent reviewer I've ever met.
Which we can completely berate.
And in
him.
fact, I'm going to have to show you with the first few lines. This review may contain spoilers, and right underneath, spoiler alert, you have been warned. We should have done this at the start of the podcast. If anyone hasn't guessed by now, there are spoilers in this podcast. Clear tension between Mark, the director, and Brad Pitt. Could be what we've been talking about. They weren't happy with it. He's actually criticised in the premiere at the London World Premiere Week and the speech that the director gave. My God, this chap has serious standards.
We have been talking about it for... I thought you were going to berate him for that, but we've been talking about it for about 1 hour. 38 now.
Oh, okay. A zombie film with no blood. He did not like that. I have no idea what the zombies were doing, as we never see them kill anyone. They run around a lot, far too fast for a human being.
I don't think Mark Forster, Quantum of Bob, in question bracket.
Who is this amateur? Speaking to actors who worked on the film. Really? Okay. They told me a lot of dialogue was improvised, and it shows. Good dialogue is written. It's very hard for an actor to come up with great dialogue. We're coming up with pretty good dialogue, and as you can tell, none of this is written. So I disagree with that. Also, the only good bit was the zombies as ants scene. It would have been hugely improved if a zombie with a giant leaf walked past in the background. The audience laughed.
That is funny.
Really?
I liked it.
The audience laughed at several moments, and that I don't believe the director even realised were gags. I'm going to have to call horse on that.
Does he tell me any of them? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What moments were these?
Brad doesn't even really do any acting. He does a bit of running around in a fight or two. No great lines, and I don't really believe that he loves his kids and wife so terribly much.
I think he was watching a different film. I think he might have been watching Fight Club and kind of...
Yeah, and leaning suitcases against a curtain. Seriously, that was really bad. Best thing in it was Daniela Cortez. So Segan does have a real name.
Yeah.
But her scenes are clearly cut to bits, unlike her hand, which seems to be fine after a couple of gin and tonics. I'll have what she's having. Oh, what else we got? At the end, the applause was half-hearted and everyone got up and left super fast.
Nobody applauded at ours, but I'm not using that against the film in the review.
Jesus Christ. Please God, capital God, can we stop giving bad directors a second, and in this case 10th chance, The film made me angry that a studio can waste so much money on what was a mediocre idea even at the beginning, and gave it to a director who has a proven track record of not being able to fix a bad script or direct action. The budget of this would keep an independent filmmaker in business for the next 400 years, or if you put that in real time scale, all the way back to Elizabeth I. Frustrating. Nothing to see here, ladies and gentlemen. Move on.
Hang on. So my factual guess about how long the budget of this film could have kept in it. Well, I'd like to say that people don't live for 400 years, let alone make movies for all that time. But also, like my factual guess of 400 years, to put that into some real context for you, that hard fact I've made up.
So if Elizabeth I had made this film, didn't make this film, she could make films up until today.
Today, yeah, exactly.
Can I just say, we've got a precedent that we have actually got a bleep queued by. I'm really sorry, whoever you are, but I think you're complete for this review.
Okay.
And, you know, that comedy bleep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed that, and I don't like slagging people off. You know, I don't like to think I've been given a podium I can shout at people, but this is just...
But also, like, I didn't like Quantum of Solace. But the thing that was wrong with it wasn't that it was bad action.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The thing that was wrong with it was that there was no story tying these complicated, intense set pieces together. And actually, have you seen Stranger Than Fiction?
Yeah, I love that film. That was really good.
Mark Forster.
Really?
Same director. Have you seen
amazing.
Finding Neverland?
Yeah.
Same director.
Wow.
So you know what I mean? Like, he clearly has no handle on story or action. It's kind of like, well, no, he made one bad film which we're all upset about, you know?
I'm just looking through these reviews. There's quite a lot of them that are, average ratings, which I'll accept. Every now and then there's like one, there's a pretty good pros and cons review here, which is, just to sum it up, the pros: epic scope, Brad Pitt, action scenes, use of the word zombie, as we said. Yeah. It's treated as a cliched terms. It's refreshing to see it used so honestly and openly. Cons: lack of gore. Well, it's PG-13.
I like that. That was a pro for me. Yeah.
Shaky cam. Well, didn't really notice it. Unfulfilling ending. Let's not talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Unintentionally funny zombies. Didn't really get
that.
Exactly. Slight lack of tension. Okay. And then here we are. We have another douchebag. Yeah. Yawn. Oh. Look, I think the best thing to do, like I say, I don't like slagging off other people on the internet. I think the best thing to do, once you've finished this, if you haven't had your fill of World War Z, head over to IMDb, have a look at the reviews, and see what you think. If you've already seen it, put your own up there, because there's going to be people... I saw this film because my wife suggested it. You said to me you had no intention to see this film until I asked you to it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be people like that who don't know whether to take a punt on this film. And I really think it is so worthwhile. So good reviews, things like this, just to kind of spread the word a bit. To sum it up, I'm really pleased with this film.
Yeah. I think it was really cool.
My inflammatory statement: I preferred this to Man of Steel.
We haven't talked about Man of Steel at all.
I know. What's up with that?
I think we're gonna have to part the Man of Steel.
Like in that time-age cinema fashion, I need a wee.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening to this. If you've come this far, it's nice for you to listen to us natter about a film.
If you've come this far, you must be a fan of World War Z, or you're just a fan of the director, or just Brad Pitt. And I think that's the best thing, when somebody makes something and you enjoy it so much that you can talk about it for fucking hell, an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, when you've picked it to pieces and you've sifted through it all, you still love it.
Yeah. And
I could happily watch this film again now, and I would enjoy it.
Felt like it's maybe quite uneasy in myself, so probably wouldn't want to watch it again now. But the kind of like, I'd be screwed, man. I can't run fast. I can't use a radio like Brad. I don't wear a gay Gap scarf to wrap the hands of victim people. Like,
it wasn't. Oh, we didn't even mention that.
No, I thought I'd let it go, but.
Just summarise it. So, kind of, if you want to sum up, we'll wrap it up now.
Thoroughly enjoyable, and I think it's a fascinating film, not only because it's so interesting to watch and does so many interesting things, but it's fascinating because of the production history and the filmmakers involved and things like that. And I think, actually, I'd love to see what happens with this film in the next 6 months and see if anything new comes about, because we might hear about the new ending. We might hear more from, the director or Brad about what happened in it. And actually, I think from a kind of filmmaking textbook example perspective, it's a really fascinating, interesting movie that's come out this year on both sides of the fence. In a film year that's been, I don't want to say disappointing because I've loved everything that's come out, but it's been a slow film year, I felt.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I was a surprise on lots of levels.
I think for me, what this film did with zombies, it's one of those films, I think it's like 28 Days Later, where it's changed what you think of when you think of zombies.
Yeah.
There's been an evolution over the years, and what I've seen in this film is now what I want to believe them to be like. I think there's things in this film that will be copied by future zombie films. There'll be certain aspects that people will take away from that. I won't admit it's perfect, but then again, you don't love something because it's perfect. You love something because it has flaws, and you love those as well.
Which is exactly how I feel about Man of Steel.
Which is exactly how I feel about you.
And I think on that note, we should probably we should wrap up. Yeah. We're gonna post this one. Oh well, you know this. We're gonna post this one in the blog section. And the reason I really want to do that is because I want to hear your comments below if you've seen it.
Absolutely.
So tweet us and Facebook us because those are also below. And we will see you on the other side.
And can I just say, if you disagree with this podcast, just do what I did and just badmouth it in a podcast of your own.
Yeah.
It's the best way forward. Take your soapbox. But yeah.
Yeah, or post it below. Have a soapbox below.
Yeah, it's the internet. No one's censoring this. You say what you want. But thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.